Before we begin, thank you very much to KH Productions for joining my Patreon campaign. Thank you so much. Really do appreciate the support. It means the world to me. So I can't go on about Patreon goals, how long the shoutouts been going on. Just pretend I did all that, because I gotta mention, like, the videos lately have been a little bit later than I wanted to. The last couple days, the videos have been way later than I wanted to. This one's gonna be late too. And currently, I'm running on about 3.5 hours sleep, because someone decided to smash the power pole outside my house. And by smash, I mean like on the ground in splinters, smashed. So all the lines had to be replaced. And for some reason, they decided that 3:30 in the morning was the appropriate time to start taking out chainsaws and clearing the path. Ugh. So I'll be completely honest with you, I need something easy today. And fortunately, a news item came up that made something pop in my head. So, we have a new rumor for the Masterpiece movie line. I don't partake in movie aesthetic Transformers anymore, unless I can find some neat Studio Series toy on discount, or the odd figure out that actually does look interesting to me. For the most part, I just kind of abstain from movie aesthetic. It's just not my kind of look for a Transformer. However, there's a few that I am particularly attached to, and one of them does happen to be Bonecrusher, who is now rumored to be the next toy in the Masterpiece movie line, coming in at a hefty $165. I'm not sure if I'm going to pay that, but hey, it's coming to Target, and Target Masterpieces eventually go on clearance. So you know what? I might actually wait this one out and grab it when it's like $100 or something. Because yeah, I really like me some Bonecrusher, and if it comes out as a solid enough toy, I might be willing to pay for it. That said, Movie Masterpiece has been going on for a while now, and that does raise the question, who is left and where do you go from here? So there's an obvious answer, and the obvious answer is Brawl. He's literally the only one left out of the original movie that has not had a Masterpiece toy yet, and he's probably going to be cost prohibitive because he is, technically Blackout's the biggest based on the size of the vehicle, but he compresses a lot. This Brawl is, I think, physically the biggest in robot mode. We've seen how big he is compared to like Ratchet and Ironhide dancing around him during the fight scene. He very big. He might be very cost prohibitive to do at the Masterpiece scale, especially because Masterpiece movie toys, they really do attempt to come close in scale to each other, which might make this exceptionally difficult for them to pull off. Not impossible, but we're talking like a $300 Masterpiece toy here. They've done it before, but they've done it with like big name characters, right? They've done it with Beast Wars Megatron, G1 Optimus version 3. I don't know if Brawl really carries the weight of the name value that those do in order to warrant such an expensive Masterpiece. But there is a strategy to intentionally leaving things for last when it comes to a set of toys, because it does raise the hype for that last one coming out, and it actually does increase the demand. So there is a potential for it. I mean, I think it's inevitable. It's just going to be costly when it happens. We're also not going to leave out poor Frenzy. Frenzy, I don't know exactly what you do with him in Masterpiece scale, but it is worth pointing out he is a Decepticon from the first movie that does not have a Masterpiece toy. So really, it's just him and Brawl left out. That said, where do you go from there? Once the entirety of the first movie cast is done, what do you do? Because frankly, most of that cast looks the same in Revenge of the Fallen. So, what? Do you do what the mainline toys did and just give everyone like a sand-covered deco? No, that's lame. That's lame for Masterpiece. Can't do that. So, I think after they finish the 07 movie run, I think that is when it is time to blow it up and expand. Go in different directions and not restrict themselves to just doing the characters in order. More to the point like they do with G1 Masterpiece, where they just kind of dance around the first 3 years and do whatever feels right at the time. I feel like that's the time for the movies. So we have, technically 5 live action movies after that they can very well tap. I think the most obvious place for them to go is going to be Sentinel Prime. I mean, aside from just being a very, prominent character and villain, it's also not a bad design for a masterpiece. You'll excuse me. For some reason, my sinuses are messed up, so if I'm coughing, I apologize. However, I do feel like Sentinel Prime does have a good place in Masterpiece. Mostly because the toys that they have produced for him so far, maybe not the greatest thing. I feel like Masterpiece is where he could shine a little bit more than he has in some of the other toy lines. He's a cool design if you can pull him off right? And yeah, like as a villain, he actually worked really well. So yeah, I think he's high up on the list. I think after you get done with movie 1, I think his probability of a masterpiece is high. And by probability, I mean like the next 2 or 3 years after the last Masterpiece movie drops, then I think somewhere in that first year or 2 is like a high probability of Sentinel Prime. Likewise, another easy shoe-in is going to be Sideswipe. Not only because, yes, cool character look, yes, survived more than 1 movie, so he's got familiarity with the audience, but also, it's a Corvette, and, Chevy is always eager to throw that license out. Make some free money. So, like, yeah, whenever you want to do a Sideswipe, please go right ahead. It's also easy to build into a brand new release if they want to do a Dark of the Moon version that's a convertible. That's a quick change of kibble. We've seen them do, like, the convertible version, complete with an interior at the deluxe scale, meaning at Masterpiece, it should be relatively simple to do. I say that with careful optimism. However, I do feel like Sideswipe is an easy choice to make for this one. Let's dance around a little bit ourselves. Let's see who else is in that range. What about Stinger? Where does Stinger rank in like the possibilities of a Masterpiece release? Okay, so yeah, he's fairly prominent in Age of Extinction. He's like kind of like the Bumblebee rival, like the evil Bumblebee. He's and he's got a really cool design. Like even though I'm not really like huge on the movie aesthetic, I do really like his design. And the fact that he is designed to be like an evil Bumblebee would really lend credit to them doing the two as like a partial retool of each other, which is always the thing that Hasbro and Takara go for, is being able to reshuffle and retool things to make things a little bit cheaper. In his case, the vehicle mode is a little bit more restrictive. They've had to skirt around it in the past. We finally did get an official one that was like correct. So that might be an issue, but beyond that, yeah, I think he's ripe for it, but maybe not the most prominent because he doesn't really have any character to him. He's mostly just a drone. So I'm putting him like a mid-level chance of getting one. Down the line, yes. But Stinger might be like 5 years out or so before he's ready for Masterpiece level. Who else? Lockdown. If we're talking Age of Extinction, Lockdown comes to mind. This is another high probability. Not only because the vehicle mode is available, we've been able to license it very easily in the past, but yeah, it's a very prominent villain and somewhat effective villain. Like if we're judging like Transformer live action movie villains by kill count, oh, he's up there. Oh, is he up there? Yeah, so that would work well. I think the best thing in this entirety, like what would make this work totally as a masterpiece, is if they could figure out some way of having his face gun without part forming. Like if it just transformed out of his chest and like slid up onto his face. Great. I would love that. It would seem to be a hard design to do because it really, his robot mode doesn't show any of what he transforms into. But Masterpiece does some really good work, so that might actually be possible. Who knows? But yeah, I think chances of him are very high. What do you do with RC? What do you do with RC? Now, if this was like, if this was if this was like 07 design, maybe, but that one was never seen in the movies. Do you go with like, well, we got a brand new RC coming out in the next movie, but we also have we also have RC from the Bumblebee movie. I didn't want to go with anything from the Bumblebee movie because that is very, very obvious direction to go to, right? I would rather stick to, some of the more OG designs for the movies that don't really have good representation. So, like, what do you do with RC? Do you do the triplets? I think despite them being in the second movie, I think their odds are very low. I think even Jolt has slightly higher odds of actually getting produced than the RC triplets, if only because the triplets are such a poorly received set of designs. You've got your fans that like the originality and the difference they have to normal Transformers, but it really just doesn't make effective designs, and that makes for ineffective toys. So I don't think the RC triplets make it in, which is too bad because they never seem to get good toys at all. Jumping all the way to Age of Extinction again in the last night, I think Hound has a good chance of making it as a masterpiece. He's of all of the replacement cast that we saw in that movie, I think he's the most likable. Like, just this lumbering oaf that's still loyal to Optimus Prime, where it seems like everybody else is just ready to gut Bumblebee the second they have a reason to. Yeah, everyone else seems like a jerk. Like, Hound seems like he was trying to keep order amongst the Autobots. And it's just a nice design. Like, it's just an interesting design. I'm not normally like a facial hair guy on Transformers. He's making it work a little bit better. So I wouldn't mind seeing this guy at a masterpiece level. But I think he's like a mid-level again. I think he's kind of mid-tier of possibility. He does have the option of a different movie version coming out later on, with Last Night being a little bit different. But, speaking of, there is Drift. Drift is another weird one. I'm never sure about like those high-end luxury cars getting licensed very easily. Obviously they did because they have Bugatti toys for both movies he appeared in. But I'm always a little bit iffy about like how like reliable that is. So I always wonder if that's an issue. But also more to the point, I'm not sure. This is one of those where I feel like the difference of opinion on this character is going to be different from US to Japan. For me, I like the idea of patterning Drift as a samurai, but I really don't like the depictions that go too hard on it. Like the original IDW Drift had samurai vibes to him, but he wasn't wearing the helmet, he wasn't wearing the giant arm guards or anything like that. He just carried himself that way. He had elements of it into his design. He didn't have like full-blown samurai armor as a Transformer. So, actually, I'm putting Drift a little bit lower. I think he is a low-level odds of getting a masterpiece. It's not terribly far out, but it really depends on how like fans in Japan view the character, which that I don't really know of. How about the Fallen? If we're talking about villain characters, he's the villain of the second movie. He is like Megatron's Lord and Master, so do you throw in the Fallen? The problem with the Fallen is always that he didn't have a vehicle mode in the movie, and every time they've kind of invented one for the toys, it just looks bad. It just looks bad. It looks terrible. Let's be honest. The vehicle modes never work. And for some reason, some people like that. And that's fine. If you like how the vehicle modes look, that's entirely on you. Your call. No harm, no foul. But man, they are weird looking vehicles. So I don't think a masterpiece is in line for, even though he's a main villain, I think his odds of a masterpiece are low just because the toy isn't going to be interesting. And then watch that's the next one announced. Like, they just skip Brawl completely and go straight to the Fallen. You watch it. It'll happen. It'll happen just to spite me. There's also something about like the way his design works where he's got those like extra things that attach to his arms to connect to the torso. Like, I always worry those are going to limit any kind of articulation he's capable of. So it might not be a satisfying toy in either mode if they do end up making it. To be fair, I haven't played with the Studio series, so maybe they already figured it out and I'm just unaware. Okay, Soundwave is a high chance. Not the satellite, though. I think we have to go with Dark of the Moon here. If only because, it is, it's like a proper, well, one, it's a proper, nice-looking vehicle. Gives them a chance to throw in Laserbeak, potentially Ravage if they want to as well. And it's just a far nicer-looking Soundwave. Like the satellite, they've done that satellite toy 2 times now, and I feel like the first one was acceptable. Like, it just kind of had some really bad tolerances and some, like, loose articulation, but they tried. And they gave it the spaceship mode that helped it. And then they did the Studio Series version of the satellite, and that thing, like, might as well have been on fire without opening the package. Yeah, I much prefer the look of Soundwave in his later depictions. So I would love to see a Masterpiece Soundwave later on, simply because the name on the toy is Soundwave. I'm giving this one a high chance of happening in the next 2 years. Moving on. Shockwave is another one that might be cost prohibitive based on the size, but hey, if Brawl works, then Shockwave will work. Not only, again, do you have name value, he is a rather cool design. Shockwave is this gigantic, like, Cyclops ogre looking guy with these, like, bone-shaped hunks of armor on him. It's a cool, creepy version of Shockwave. And then he's got this massive cannon for an arm. I mean, yeah, it's a really cool look. Over the years, yeah, they've played with his vehicle mode too, but I feel like him as this, like, Cybertronian tank has hit a lot more than some of the other attempts at modernizing and giving vehicle modes to characters that didn't transform in the movies. Yeah, I would like to see that. I think it would work. Do I think it's 2 years down the line? Probably not. Probably not, if I'm being honest. So, like, I think it will get a Masterpiece toy, but I don't think it's going to be, like, next 2-3 years. I think it's down the line. So I'm putting him, like, mid-level. Mid-level chance of getting it in the next couple years. The one I'd really love to see and is never going to happen? It's the Grimlock. So I really like Studio Series Grimlock. I think it's an awesome-looking figure, especially the paint job on the retail level is amazing. The downside to Grimlock is size. You want to talk cost prohibitive. This guy, like, Brawl is bigger than Optimus by height and bulk, but he's still, like, he would still measure up. You saw him side by side. We can see that compared to the Autobots that were fighting Brawl. Grimlock is big enough for Optimus to ride, So, like, if imagine how expensive Blackout was because of his size. Now we're looking at, like, double that in order to make a Grimlock happen. Unless they got super clever with how they hollowed out parts and just tried to make it, like, as thin plastic as possible. Then people will complain that it didn't feel like a Masterpiece toy, cheap plastic, hollow pit, yada, yada, yada. We've all been there. It's a very low chance of happening. Even though it's a Grimlock, even though it's a cool design, even though it is, like, a really cool idea, because I'd love to see one that big. But no, super low chance. Super low chance, just because, yeah, cost is too much. Can we agree the twins are never happening? Let's just cover the basic facts here. Hasbro and Takara were both willing to start delving into the High Moon Studio games to fill out the Studio Series waves before they even thought about doing the twins in any of their forms, Ice Cream Truck or these two. Keep in mind, since Skids had his last toy, the original Skids, essentially a toy-only character in G1, because he has, like, one speaking role in G1. He plays no part in any episode. I don't think he even gets into a fight. I think you only see him in 2 episodes total, doing literally nothing. And he has 2 Generations toys and a Masterpiece toy since Skids debuted on the big screen. That'll tell you a lot about how disliked these characters are, not only by us, but by Hasbro and Takara, who I don't think want to tempt any kind of, like, backlash for bringing them back, because the characters had so much backlash on them when they debuted. Yeah, I don't think we're ever seeing the twins again. No matter how prominent they were in Revenge of the Fallen, I don't think you ever see them again. Ever. I think Hasbro's just going to bury them completely at this point. Into the sands you go. There is one that I think is prime. I think there's one that's super ripe for doing as a full-on masterpiece toy. The one that I would want above all others, Shatter. I would love a masterpiece Shatter. It doesn't even have to triple change. I'd be okay just making her the Jet with some extraneous car parts on there. That is going to hamper the possibility of her coming out because I know the designers are going to want to triple change her. Even though that is incredibly unlikely or going to end up very messy. But yeah, the design is great. I think she's one of the most effective villains Transformers ever had in live action. And yeah, I mean, she is absolutely deserving of that masterpiece treatment. So that's my favorite pick out of all of them. If I left anyone out, let me know. If you had one that you want to see at masterpiece level, if you think you have one that I forgot that is deserving of it, let me know in the comments below. And then we just kind of sit back and wait a couple years and we find out which one of us is right. Once Brawl is inevitably announced, who is next? Someone is. They're gonna continue Masterpiece movie. You know they are. It's just a matter of who. You know, and this wasn't even touching on like multiple versions of Megatron and Optimus. You know, we could go on with that for years by itself. So, let me know in the comments below, and then just sit and wait along with me. Until then. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.